here in the barn, where I make pots on the pottery wheel, practice my pottery, I make candles, I spin wool on my spinning wheel, I dye wool using indigo, I paint watercolors. I do so many wonderful things in this lovely barn that's kind of tucked away from everything. And one of the things that I love doing in here is having my breakfast and lunch in the barn alone, or with Alexandra, my friend who also lives here. We come out here and we'll sit at the clay table and have lunch. We call it our barn lunch, but often I'm alone. And over the last few years, my meal times in the barn have become a treasure to me. They're so peaceful and relaxing. And there are a few things that I do just to make the experience feel even nicer. And I thought I would share those with you today, because eating outdoors when the weather is nice is just one of those simple tweaks to mealtime that completely transform the practice of eating. And you can do this like on a picnic, on the ground, on a picnic blanket, or on your deck, or even at your job. Maybe you have your lunch with you and you just go outside and sit on a stoop or sit in the back lot and have your lunch there. But I think if you can, try to infuse something into that practice that just elevates it a little bit. When I worked at Pioneer Village, I started eating my lunch outside. The staff room was this dingy, damp, dark, fluorescent lit room with just a long table, and it was awful. It was very cringy, and that's where everybody ate their lunch. And it was a few years in that I realized, oh, when the weather's nice, why don't I just eat outside? So I started bringing a wicker basket to work, which was period, something that was appropriate to be seen by the public when I was wearing my 1860s costume. And I would pack things in that basket and then go have my lunch under a tree. And at Pioneer Village, it was very important. We had this rule that if we, the employees, the interpreters, were within the eyeline of the public, anything that we were using or doing had to be appropriate to the 1860s. So I just embraced this. And I started getting excited about acquiring things that were appropriate to be eating outside, like a picnic blanket that was linen, that looked like cloth that could have been around in the 1860s, and the other accoutrements for eating and drinking. So it was fun, and I've kind of transported that into this practice of eating away from the dining table. So today I want to share just 3 things with you that I do in the barn, or that I have here in the barn for eating outdoors. And they're things that I think you should infuse into this practice as well, because they're lovely. So the first thing that just changes the whole experience is some kind of a placemat, a cloth placemat. You transform a space when you put like a designated cloth onto it. And I kind of see this practice very similar to a Muslim prayer rug, like unfurling one of those beautiful hand-knotted rugs that into the design, there's always, in a prayer rug, there's always the point incorporated into the design that points towards Mecca. And there's something I think so beautiful about the practice of having your little rug with you wherever you are, and then being able to unfurl it on the ground, and that spot becomes sacred to you because you have your little thing. And I'm not Muslim, and I don't do that, but I see the value in it. And I think that this is the wonderful thing about educating yourself about all religions, is there are these beautiful practices that have a connection to their religion that we can actually pull into secular living. And this is one of them for me. This act of unfurling just a little piece of cloth that is specifically for dining. And then once it's placed down, it's like a clean space that now is like a blank canvas that's ready for dining. And you can take this anywhere. So like even if you're eating your lunch at work on the stoop outside the building in an alley, if you have a little mat, you could even just put it on your lap. It could serve as a kind of napkin, or put it on like a picnic table outside. And I used to do stuff like this in communal settings, and sometimes people raised their eyebrows a little bit, but I didn't mind. And then a couple of times other people started doing the same thing, which was always very flattering. So this is the first thing, a placemat, and this mat specifically is sentimental to me because it was woven by my friend Deborah at Upper Canada Weaving. She wove this with a 19th century pattern that I love, and the colors of this are just very subtle but really beautiful. I've had this for years. So it has a couple of stains on it, which I don't mind at all. I feel like it just adds to this practice of really using the thing outside. Placemat / cloth. That's number one. Number two, I need a sip of coffee. I need a sip of coffee before number two. Number two is your dishware. So I highly encourage everyone to use actual china plates when they're outside, like and traveling around. If you can find a cheap set or you can even just have one plate that you buy at a yard sale or a thrift store for 50 cents that becomes your traveling plate. That always elevates a meal, like a ceramic plate. But the thing that I love for sort of camping and any kind of eating outdoors is a certain type of dishware called Enamelware. And this is an Enamelware plate, which is vintage. So I've been really impressed in that they've actually started making these again. They've actually started making Enamelware and selling it kind of in places where it's easily accessible to people. I think even big box stores like Walmart have Enamelware in the camping section, and the Enamelware plates are very inexpensive. But this is kind of a classic. Enamelware, you'll see it in old Western movies. You'll see it in movies like from the 20s. You'll see it in like Little House on the Prairie, that show that I grew up watching that I loved. It's thin. It's enamel coated metal, and it's durable. It's lightweight. You do have to be concerned about it chipping if it really bangs up against something very hard like a rock. Like if you drop this on a rock, it'll probably damage it. But otherwise, it's pretty durable. And I have two Enamelware plates that are vintage, and the vintage ones are really thin. That's how you can usually tell if they're old. The modern ones are thicker, and they don't feel as delicate. So, whatever you prefer, I suggest trying out Enamelware, because I think if more people tried it out, they would fall in love with it for this purpose. So I have the Enamelware plate that I use for my lunch and my breakfast out here. Just transforms everything. And I store these plates out here. And then the last thing that is a detail which is a little more tricky to acquire, but it is something that I feel turns the process of eating outdoors into a kind of still life, like when you just glance at it, is a metal mesh food cover. So this is a food dome or a food cover. It's called a couple of other things, but this is something that I was first introduced to at Pioneer Village in the Tavern kitchen, where we would bake like cookies and scones and we would sell them to the public. We had them laid out on platters and we had to cover them because there were flies in the buildings. The windows were open. There were no screens in the windows. So we had a couple of these, and they were old, and they're really beautiful. The old antique ones are, I think, stunning. I think they're works of art. They always have these tiny little metal details around the rim and the handle to pick them up. And the way that it's formed into this dome, which transitions into a rectangle without any seams or pleats. Like, I don't know how this is made, but it's beautifully made. I'm going to warn you, these are not easy to find. And in my antiquing, I've only ever seen a couple. And when I saw this one, I saw this in Canada, I just was so excited. I bought it, and I carefully transported it back to the States, and I use it here in the barn now for my meals. So I'll bring my breakfast or my lunch out here, and I'll set it down, and then I'll cover it while I'm setting up other things. And then if I take a break from eating for whatever reason, because I'm always doing a bunch of things at the same time in here, I'll cover my food. And when I return to it, it just makes me smile looking at this mesh cover. These are also, because the vintage ones are very difficult to find, I did do a little bit of searching, and I found that there are some that are available online that aren't bad. They're a nice consolation to not being able to find a vintage one. So I'll put a link in the description of this video for anyone that might want a metal mesh, because this is metal, it's not plastic. That's kind of the difference. There's no plastic here, and it just makes it so much more beautiful with it all being metal and cloth. So those are the three things that I do to elevate my outdoor consumption of meals. Is it outdoor? Well, see, the breeze is blowing, there's leaves outside. I consider this outdoor. Try it yourself, let me know what you think.